Donald Trump has never been subtle about success. The man built a global brand on gold trim and big letters, and even in 2025, the scale of his world still startles. The estimates move, the rankings shuffle, the markets breathe in and out, but the headline remains the same. He lives large. He collects properties like trophies. He turns travel into theater. He treats the idea of privacy the way most people treat a dress code. Optional. Let us start with the money, because that is the scoreboard people always ask about. The latest Forbes estimate in September 2025 puts Donald Trump at roughly $7.3 billion, largely on the back of real estate and brand-linked assets. Bloomberg keeps him in the league table of global billionaires as a mover who rises and falls with property values, licensing, and public market swings. The exact number is a snapshot, but the strategy has been the same for decades. Build it, name it, and keep it in the family. Now step back from the spreadsheet and walk the floor. In Palm Beach, there is the fabled estate that functions like a private citadel and a social club at the same time. It is a place where chandeliers hang over deals, where a lunch on the terrace can turn into a press story by dinner. Up the coast and across the country are hotels, condos, golf resorts, and towers that define the Trump aesthetic. Marble and mirrors, brass and bold fonts, lobbies that announce themselves before you even look up. New York will always be the origin story. The tower on Fifth Avenue remains the brand's most recognizable address, a vertical calling card that fuses retail, television lore, and real estate power into one footprint. For decades, that penthouse in the clouds was the camera-ready answer to the question, what does opulence look like? The answer looked like a Versailles daydream with a Manhattan zip code. The walls told the story, and the elevator rides wrote the footnotes. The man also turned winter into a season. The Palm Beach estate is both theater and headquarters. It is where the guest lists often read like a Sunday news show and a sports broadcast mashed together. If you walk that property in your mind, you can see the escorts of black cars on the entry road, the pool glitter, the hush around the private wing, and the endless parade of cameras waiting for a quote. It is not just a residence. It is a stage. Travel tells you the rest. The Boeing 757 that the world calls Trump Force One is still the moving set piece that tells everyone the main character has arrived. Updated cabin, polished wood, gold accents in places most planes would never think to decorate. A king bed tucked behind a door, because sometimes a flight is also a workday that ends at midnight. Two big galleys that can plate a dinner for a traveling court. The jet is not the most modern aircraft in the sky, but it might be the most photographed private cabin in American politics. It is a flying signature. When the schedule tightens, the helicopters take over. The Sikorsky rides are not just about convenience, they are about control. You can lift off from a back lawn and land 10 minutes from a rally site, then be airborne again before the crowd has finished its last cheer. From the rotors to the leather seats, the message is the same as the rest of the portfolio. Speed, access, and a view that keeps you above the traffic and above the noise. On the road, the motorcade is choreography with a steel backbone. Armored sedans, SUVs, and a security bubble that hums like a server room. Decoys peel away. Lead cars clear intersections. Communications stay lit. You do not just move a principal from door to door. You move the entire perimeter of a traveling operation, and you do it with precision. It looks effortless on purpose. At sea, there is always a story. The most famous chapter is the yacht that started life as Nabila in the era of oil princes and disco. When Trump rechristened it, the name alone turned every harbor arrival into a headline. Marble, onyx, secret doors, a pool walled in glass, a floating palace that once slept heads of state and movie stars. Even after the yacht left his hands, it remained part of the legend. The image of that white ship against a blue horizon told the same story as the towers. If you are going to arrive, arrive. The collection of cars is both museum and theater. Rolls for grace, Bentley for pace, classic American stretch for a night when you want the city to see you pass. the occasional lightning streak of an Italian supercar. Even an electric surprise, because nothing says I can choose any lane I want like owning a battery rocket while debating energy policy. Every garage photo answers the same question. What do you drive when you do not need to drive anything at all? Now step into the world that pays for it all. Real estate is the base. Hotels and residences with the name on the canopy. Golf resorts that turn a weekend event into a 3-hour ad for the brand. Licensing that allows the letters to travel even where ownership does not. The structure is a mosaic. Majority stakes here, minority stakes there. A long list of management and branding deals that pay without the capital burden of pouring the concrete. There have been valleys along with the peaks, projects that never made it out of the sketchbook, properties that went into restructuring and came back reminted, deals that created rivals, headlines, and lawsuits that lasted years. That is the thing about an empire. It looks smooth at a distance and messy up close. But if you zoom out far enough, the pattern reveals itself. Repeat the playbook in every time zone you can reach. Sports is the arena where brand and business meet the megaphone. Trump's courses have hosted events across tours, but the biggest soap opera of the decade has been the Civil War in golf. Saudi-backed LEV on one side, the PGA Tour on the other, and a swirl of talks, standoffs, and proposals in the middle. In 2025, the news cycle swung from optimism to stalemate and back again, with public reports of rejected terms, new executives, and fresh television strategies. Trump kept pressing for a reunification that would bring the biggest names under one roof, often with his properties at the center of the calendar. The only safe bet is that the story is not finished. Politics turned the luxury into a spotlight. Every flight log became a story. Every golf round became a column. Every overnight trip carried a price tag the press would tally down to the last rental car. Secret Service logistics turned the personal calendar into a protected route. Advance teams, sweep teams, counter-surveillance, medical staff, secure comms, backup sites, and a second plan for the backup plan. Safety is the only luxury you negotiate once. The story of wealth always comes back to tangible things. Keys, titles, deeds, jets, and the cables that tie a dock to the cleats on a pier. But the intangible is where the leverage lives. Reputation and attention. A brand that can raise room rates and green fees. A signature that can turn a product into a headline. The ability to put your name on a building and have it change the way people feel when they step through the door. There is also the art of using spectacle to keep the value of your name high. A gala at the club where cameras catch a handshake. A night fight under bright lights where the broadcast booth says the venue name a dozen times before the second bell. A course that lands on television and in the next week sells out tea times a month ahead. A single shot of a jet door opening and a set of stairs rolling forward can carry more brand fuel than 100 adbuys. When people talk about net worth, they usually mean a number. In this world, net worth is a universe. It is the leverage over a calendar. It is how many phone calls you can make at midnight and still have them answered. It is how often the press repeats the words that make you money. It is how many rooms you can walk into where people stand and wait for you to speak. It is the scale of your stage. His business model has always blended ownership with licensing. The family runs the licensing portfolio with the precision of a film studio slate. Hotels, residences, golf, consumer lines, and media tie-ins arrive like seasons of a long-running show. Some are hits, some miss the mark. The trick is that the new title card is always around the corner, and the audience never stops watching. Critics will point to the controversies and the court fights. Supporters will point to the balance sheet and the buildings. Both are part of the story. The larger truth is that you do not create a brand recognized on every continent by playing small. The edges are sharp because the silhouette is big. The money conversation in 2025 has a new twist. There are emerging disclosures, new ventures, and public filings that push valuations up on some days and pull them down on others. Estimates vary, but the aggregation still lands Trump among the most visible fortunes on Earth. That visibility is a multiplier. Visibility creates deal flow. Deal flow creates optionality. Optionality creates staying power. What does a day feel like inside this life? A breakfast where the view sells the myth all by itself. A phone that never quiets. A staffer with a folder that has the next ribbon cutting circled in red. A jet fueled and waiting. A helicopter rotor that ticks down to silence while an SUV door opens. A dinner under a ceiling fresco while the sea throws moving light against the windows. Then a late-night walk through a quiet wing of a very big house, past portraits and mirrors, and the sound of air lifting through vents. There are other rooms that matter too. The boardrooms with polished tables, the event halls with stages at one end and spotlights tucked into trusses, the caddy shacks where locals trade stories about a famous visitor and a hot nine, the control booths in television trucks where a director counts you in and the world counts your words. Success at this level is a network effect. Every property boosts the value of every other property because each one broadcasts the same story. That is why a residence is also a set. That is why a club is also a press room. That is why a plane is also a message. That is why the font on the canopy is as important as the marble in the lobby. When the world knows your brand before it knows your business plan, you can write the next chapter as you go. The older you get, the more you realize that wealth is time, not just treasure. Jets buy back hours. Helicopters buy back minutes. Staff buys back mental space. Properties buy back certainty. All of that buys back control. Control of where you go, who you see, what you answer, and what you leave unanswered. There is a reason so many people watch this story. It is not only the money. It is the permission the money gives. The permission to live in a way most people only imagine. To decide Monday looks like a gala, and Tuesday looks like a rally, and Wednesday looks like a round that finishes just as the sun kisses the water. To treat a schedule like a canvas. If you zoom in, you find the details that keep the myth alive. A monogram on a pillow, a door handle with more weight than it needs because heavy metal feels like importance, a staffer who knows precisely how you take your coffee, a driver who takes the long way because the long way looks better on camera, a balcony door that seals the noise but lets the ocean in with a flick of the wrist. If you zoom out, you see a map with pins and flight paths and reserved tables. You see a line that runs from a Queens office to a Fifth Avenue atrium, to a South Florida lawn, to a jet that is always ready. You see a career that has rewritten itself again and again by doubling down on the same core idea. Make it big. Make it loud. Make it yours. So, where does the road go from here? In 2025, the fortune is still measured in billions. The brand is still loud. The properties still hum. The travel still glitters. The camera still follows. The deals still chase the name even when the name chases the deal. That is how empires endure. They turn momentum into gravity. The story of Donald Trump's luxury life is not one thing. It is a collage. Gold trim and security briefings, elevator rides and rally stages, tee boxes and television trucks, the smell of jet fuel and polished wood. 1,000 details that add up to one conclusion. This is not subtle money. This is statement money. If you made it this far, you do not just like luxury. You study it. You track it. You want to know how the biggest players bend the world around their tastes. That is what we do here. We find the keys, open the doors, and show you the rooms. Before you go, tap subscribe to Luxury Throne and turn on the bell. New luxury documentaries every week. The richest lives without the filter.